Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone. It's nice to meet you again. This is our first meeting of the material as we have made our last meeting as the introductions of our subject, yeah. So today I will start by giving you the materials of the first topic. It is about the introductions of language, yeah. Because our material now relate to the skills of the language. So first of all, I would like to elaborate about what is language first, so that you can know why we should learn about this. Because as a basic information or as a basic knowledge, this is very important to know the basic knowledge of something that we want to learn. Yeah. So in this case, because our topic is the study of language skills, so we have to know first what is language itself. Before that, because we start our activity in WhatsApp group, so make sure that you all have list your attendance. Yeah, I hope you're not only state your name in the beginning, but you should follow in every activity that I provided in online learning. Although this is online learning, but I hope you still can get the material clearly. Okay, so let's start with the what we call as language. So what do you know about language? We use language in everyday activity. Like just now, I'm communicating with you uh, virtually. This is the way I communicate to you by language or human language. So what is actually language? There are several definitions. Yeah, I took this from Susan Dozert. C, elaborated language. Yeah, C, elaborated language as a concept. Yeah, a variety of concept or things as a particular form of words or speech used by people of a country or area or social group. So uh, it is limited in a community, or I mean it is isolated in a community, whether it is small community or large community or even a whole community. A language must exist in that communities. Although you talk in some areas, you have a specific language rather than the other areas. So this what Susan Dozert called as language. Yeah. And language itself also as a method of communication. Why? This is the way we communicate what is in our thought, what is in our mind. We try to say something. We try to express our feeling, our condition, and our thought to the other so the other can understand the conditions. Susan Dozert also elaborate language as the style or types of words used by person or group of person. This view is uh, believed by sociolinguistics, means that in social communities, in social relation, we must have the style or the types of words that we usually use in that communities. Yeah. So from all the explanations that this is a variety of concept, the way we communicate, and then the style of communication, so we call, or Susan Dozert called this language as the form of human communications. So when we try to say what we think, when we try to express our feeling, when we try to make someone understand, make someone new, or we get information by asking, by finding out using words or spoken words or written words, we call it as a method. And then the way we express that, the way we say this way of communication. This is called the style. So we call it as the human communication. From those explanations, there are um, definitions of language. There are some definitions of language from the expert. The first is from Block and Traeger. Block and Traeger said that language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which a social group operates. Yeah, so language is a system of arbitrary used by representing a symbols, representing symbol. And then Allen also elaborate or define language as a means of communicating thoughts. It is also elaborated by Susan that language is the way or the method of communication. Yeah, so this is in line with Allen. Allen said that language is a means of communicating thoughts. Yeah, and then O. Jefferson also defined language as a set of human habits, the purpose of which is to give expression to thoughts and feelings. Yeah, so this is a habit of human in which the purpose is to give expression, because we want to express something, we want to express our condition, so we use our habit to communicate those condition. Yeah, and also the last the next definition is from Webster, said that language is audible or articulate human speech as produced by the actions of the tongue and adjacent vocal organs. Later, you will learn about phonetic and phonology, and there you will get the knowledge about how actually human produce language. And according to Webster, language is audible, articulate human speech as produced by the actions of the tongue and adjacent vocal organs. So maybe so if we see from this definition, we can get the point here is the spoken language, but it is not limited only spoken language but also written language. So what is actually the characteristics of language itself? Do you know the characteristic of language itself? So Yule, the next, Yule is an expert of language. Yeah, he is a linguist. He elaborated 5 characteristics of language. The first is displacement. The second is arbitrariness, and the third is productivity, and then the fourth is cultural transmission, and the fifth is duality. For the displacement, yeah, displacement is the ability to use language to talk about times, places, people. It is other than here and now. It is other here and now. This is this ability or this characteristic also elaborate how actually human can say something true and something false. We think about something whether this is true or false. We elaborate that condition. Yeah, this is just the same with the other creator. The other creator try to send the message like bees. You know bees. Bees are said to be able to convey some of the information through their dance. Yeah, the way they dance can deliver information about the source of the food. So here, the displacement is about the truth about the condition where it is wrong. Yeah, the ability of someone to say that what what we are explaining is about truth, what we are explaining is about lie or fake, like that. So this is belong to the characteristics of displacement. And the second one is arbitrariness. So what is arbitrariness? Arbitrariness means is there is no general, generally no natural. It is inherent relationship between sign, whether it is sound, what we hear, and or later what we see. So we produce the sounds, of course, with purpose. The purpose, what is the purpose? The purpose is the meaning itself. Yeah. This reason makes the language that created in a specific area, in a specific communities, or in a specific country have different symbol and different meaning. Yeah. For example, in Bahasa Indonesia, a plant that has beautiful crown, yeah, with colorful crown, we call it as bunga, yeah. While in English, they call it as flower. We recognize the sounds of bunga as something beautiful, as something or a plant that is beautiful. And when English speaker heard the sounds of flower, yeah, of course, between bunga and flower has different combinations of sounds. Bunga, 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 and flower, Flower. It's different sounds, and they uh, accept these sounds as specific meaning. Yeah. For example, the other example, um, bias, bias, bias. In bahasa Indonesia, we say that bias. Yeah. In English, say that bias. But these two different sounds has their own specific meaning. So this called as arbitrariness. And then when we see something tiny, yeah, and then something big, so we can connect or we can recognize that when we see something tiny, we call it small things, and when we see something big, we call it big things. Yeah. So it depends on the things and or the word or the letter that represents the object. So we call it as arbitrariness. Yeah. So this is the relation between symbols and its meaning. Okay. And of course, each language represent its symbols. Yeah. Specifically, we can see uh, India has different symbols of their language, right? And then Korea has different symbols than us. We must need a very deep learning about Korean symbols of written language, yeah, because they have specific symbols of letter to express written language. So we call it as each language represent its symbols. So this is belongs to the characteristic of arbitrariness. And then if we conclude all the information, so we can call that every language has their own arbitrariness. Okay. Do you remember with Sansekerta, or do you remember when we learned about Hana Caraka like that? What do we call it? Or what do we call it? I don't know. Yeah, uh, that symbols, yeah. Hana Caraka Data Sawala. That is the symbols of Sansekerta, yeah. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. And then the next characteristic is productivity. What is productivity? Productivity allows the user to continuously create new utterance, combining the building brick of language in every new ways, whether sounds, words, or sentences. So, language is evolving. Language is not stop developing in one specific period, but it keeps evolving with the development of civilization. Yeah, uh, the simple case that currently happens regarding with the characteristic of productivity is, do you know the words that recently popular discussed by Lutfi? Okay, let's talk it in the sake of uh, language discussion. Yeah. Recently, we have discussed a very hot discussion about anjay, right? Okay. Why? Why then, sorry, anjay becomes popular recently? While actually this word is developed or evolved from or derived from the words of animals, call it, sorry, anjing, like that. Yeah, but it seems that they want to decrease the harshness or the rudeness of this word, become anjay, right? Actually, in the sides of politeness, this is of course impolite. But because nowadays there are so many young people talk, and seems like the word anjay is not or acceptable, or it's okay to say, so it is accepted in many levels of age. Yeah, so this what we call as evolving. Language is evolving. Okay, next, the next characteristic is cultural transmission. So language is how this talk about the characteristic of language in which the language are acquired by our children. There is no relation with the genetic. For example, you are Korean or you are Indonesian genetic. Your parents are Indonesian. Yeah, your parents are Indonesian, but um, you are adopted by American, and then you live there, start from you babies, and then because you live with American parents, so they start to talk to you in American language or English language. Yeah, so you will grow with English language with their own culture. Yeah, so it is not about your biologic your biological parents are Indonesian, but it is not about that, but where you acquire the language. So the language brings cultures. So because you are adopted by American parents, so that you learn English in American, you learn English, American English, and you grow with the cultures of American English. So this is called as cultural transmission. Yeah, and the next characteristic is duality. Duality means two separate layers of language working together to provide us with a pool of sounds which we can combine to communicate one another. So this is two layers, yeah, where language can work together in providing the sounds, yeah, the sounds that we can combine, one another to create meaningful language. So we call it as duality. And we have the other features of language. The first is reflexiveness. It means that we are able to use the language to talk about language. We use this language to talk about language. Yeah, we use bahasa Indonesia to discuss English. We use English to discuss the other language. Yeah, so we call it as reflexiveness. And discreteness means that something that is said to distinguish human languages from other forms of animals communications. Yeah, so this is very different. And how actually our brain process that, we have two areas in our brain that process the language. We call it as Broca and Wernicke. The Broca and Wernicke are two majors of area in the brain that specialize in language. So we have specific part of our brain that focusing on how we process the language, how we produce the language, and how we comprehend the language. Yeah, and since language need effort to master, so language is called as a skill. Language is essential skills. Yeah, because this is naturally comes under psychomotor domain. There are four language skills. The first is listening, and then speaking, and then reading and writing. Those are the skills of language. And then what about the classifications of language itself? For the language, we divide it into two. The first is productive skills and receptive skill. Productive means that we produce something. Yeah, we produce something. In this case, we divide into two skills. The first is speaking and writing. For speaking, we produce verbal, yeah, or we produce sounds. While for writing, we produce symbols. Yeah, for receptive means that we receive the sounds and we receive the symbols. Yeah, there are two skills. The first is listening and reading. Okay, and then what about the form? Because there are two kinds, yeah, two kinds of language, productive and receptive. So it also divided into two forms. The first is spoken and written. So language is a system. Language is a complex whole like a human body. The system that functions through sounds, through words, structures, and these are integrated with one another that constitute the complex whole, which is called as language. Yeah, so a language itself, yeah, wait a minute. So a language, sorry, so language is generally passive and receive information through listening, like I said before. Yeah, and then the language system regulates the how we actually deliver or how we communicate. This is regulates in phonetics, regulate in grammar and vocabularies, which is all of those things called as the system. And how if we want to get deeper understanding about language, so we should focus on linguistic. Yeah, we focus on linguistic. So what is actually linguistic? Linguistic is the science of language. Yeah, this is descriptive discipline that focus on describing the rules which speaker seems to have internalized. So everything related to the discussions of the language, it is in the scope of linguists. Okay, this is the scope of linguists. Okay, so those explanation are the introductions of language. Yeah, I have comprehension check for you. I have provided 4 questions here. I hope you can read and review the explanation from me and then rewrite or recompose, yeah, by producing an article, yeah, an article creating what you know about the language itself, like I have just explained just now. Okay, so please have it. Please make in one paper type in A4 paper, yeah, 12 times Muroman, and 1.5 space. Okay, it's nice to see you today. I think that's all for my explanation for the first meeting. Thank you and see you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.